Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas Kevin Dolan. I'm the writer and author of Little Fag, A Journey of Self-Acceptance and Healing. And today I'm going to read chapter 4, beginning on page 151 of my book, and the title is My Oldest Brother, Like Sweet but Sour Candy. The telephone rang one quiet early morning in March of 1988. My aunt spoke sharply down the line. Why didn't you tell me? For a moment, my world darkened. Did she know I was gay? She continued, I was safe for only an instant. Her next words told me my eldest brother was dead. He was the most accomplished of our clan, a football star, a shining athlete, and a loving and gentle human being. As much as I tried to steal his title, he really was perfect. I identified his body at the morgue. I went to his rooming house to clear out his things. I found the letters he'd been writing to his estranged sons, filled with apologies for not being around to raise them. He spoke of his secret, his alcoholism. My desire to not be married intensified after his death. I grieved for my brother. I grieved for myself. Images of the unfinished letters swam around in my head. When I called his former wife to tell her he was gone, she told me that their boys had each received a letter from their father just days before his death. I had found only the drafts. He had finished his letters and mailed them. He found his words. He'd shared his secrets with his sons. He'd shared his truth, and in doing so, had liberated himself. Perhaps this was my brother's gift to me. Perhaps I could commit to telling my truth. What I braved. Even today, more than 35 years after his death, I hear myself saying, you were an amazing man. I miss you, and I trust you're doing well. There were few male roles I felt safe with in my life. My oldest brother was one of them. He lived a quiet life. I wished I'd been more mature enough to ask him more questions. I sense he had a lot to teach me, but I also sense he had no idea how to impart that knowledge. At any point in time, when I was younger, I was told amazing stories about my oldest brother. From his athleticism to his charming disposition, to how generous he was. I always heard good words about him. To me, he felt like a local hero. He'd shared without any pressure. I really feel your leadership capabilities, your work will be to show them to others. Even in grade 9, I understood what he was saying. He was my head coach during my first years in band and football in junior high school. Part of my sense of confidence came from his positive encouragement of me. During practice one day, bringing my leadership skills to life, I sprinted past the leader of the lap around the practice field we were taking. My teammate blurted, "Fuck off," as I ran past him. All I remember thinking was, this is me showing others that I am a leader. My brother lived in an age where ink, not tattoos, described the amount of press coverage one received in the newspaper and was actually a measure of one's sports success. He'd received write-ups for his prowess in Little League baseball, all levels of hockey, football from high school, junior football in Saskatoon, right through to the Canadian Football League, and his success as a football coach. I was once told by a prominent Calgary sportscaster that my brother was perhaps one of the greatest athletes to come out of Calgary. Yet there existed a sadness about my brother that I felt was familiar to me. It's as if he had lived through something I had lived through. Both of us were walking a similar path. While he was alive, I would never be able to figure it out. We both had secrets. Mine was being gay, his was being alcoholic. We both used perfection as a way to hide our secrets. It was our shield that ensured the world wouldn't see our imperfections. God forbid if the world knew who we really were. He would use alcohol to cover up his sadness. I think it also helped him not be able to feel his pain he created in his relationships. My brother did a lot of work with Alcoholics Anonymous, with their 12-step program. But the one thing he couldn't shake is what I call Dolan pride. It was this bullshit belief instilled in us by our parents to never let the world see who we really were. It kept us from asking for help and inspired us to always cover up the truth with lies. Years after he was fired from the Calgary Fire Department, I remember hearing a younger sister tell someone who cared deeply about her brother that he was fine and doing well as a firefighter. The impact of living around alcoholism was daunting. The cost of keeping the Dolan facade in place was so sad to witness. He inspired me to move away from the Catholic school many of my Dolans did not graduate from. The trajectory of my life changed because of that. He believed in me. He knew, as often he'd say to me, "Forge your own path, one step at a time, young man." What I braved in my relationship with my hero was learning to create boundaries and upholding them. Although I'd be stung many times by his hardships, he did honor my no when that was the boundary I needed to create. To this day, I know he understands the steps I was taking. The unlearning. The move I made from the Catholic school system to the Protestant school system, as my mom saw it, was made possible by my big brother. What I didn't know was that he never discussed it with his wife. Moving into their home for my grade 11 year with their 2 young sons was very uncomfortable. His wife was very generous, but I always knew that she wasn't given a choice. Here was another circumstance where his priorities as a husband and father seemed to be misplaced. I think he wanted me to have what he couldn't have in his life, some sense of stability, and to have someone supporting what he felt was my dream. Living in the basement of their house was very lonely. I had left all my high school friends who lived across the city, and I really felt like an intruder in their home. The rules in Calgary at the time were simple. To attend a particular school, you had to live in the school's district. My mom's home was in the northwest, and this school was in the southwest. My brother's home was in the new school district, so I would stay with him. This new school was a powerhouse when it came to football. The team had a 10-year consecutive streak of winning the division title. This was the place I could receive some top-level coaching. Yet, all anyone knew of me that I was the Catholic boy, this football star transferring to their school. It was very unnerving. Being known as one of the Dolans during my grade 10 year at that Catholic school had its perks. I was treated differently. I felt entitled and did the best I could to take advantage of it. Yet, I wasn't anything like my older brothers who walked the halls before me. It was a terrifying time for me. My studies suffered, and I'm sure no one knew I didn't want to be there. I missed at least 10 English classes, and no one, not my teacher or the school administrators, talked to me or my mom. I felt unseen. I did excel as the quarterback for the junior team, yet we were beaten by the Protestant school that I attempted to transfer to the year before. It felt cathartic and quite embarrassing, actually. So in September of 1974, seated in the homeroom of my new Protestant school, and on the first day of class, I chirped out "present" as my name was read off during roll call. The room grew silent, and everyone turned to look at me. "So you're him," chimed the young man whose name was read just before mine. He clearly shares in his voice, everyone can hear, "I'm the middle linebacker who roughed you up during last year's playoff game. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm glad you're on our team this year. Welcome." Everyone in the room applauded. My heart opened. The unlearning for me during this tumultuous time was realizing that I could open up to being supported. I could forge a path, one step at a time, that had nothing to do with any member of my family. My future was up to me. I could begin to trust that I was safe and welcome in this new space. There have been many times when I have acknowledged that fork in the road. At that time in my life, it was a major turning point for me. From that place would come extraordinary teachers, special friends, and the opportunity to embrace a future I could be 100% responsible for. My oldest brother bestowed upon me two of my life's most precious gifts. I matter, and I am worthy. Oh, I loved writing that story. And of course, I love my eldest brother. His name is Rick, even more. One of the joys of listening to the wisdom he imparted, he was a man of few words. So we didn't sit down and have big conversations about what it was he really wanted me to do. But I could tell there was a push towards something that would be a different step for Dolan to take. The first step would be away from St. Francis, where most of the Dolans attended, many didn't graduate from, and a push towards getting more support from folks that really were highly knowledgeable when it came to the game of football. Remember, Rick played professional football. He played with the Calgary Stampeders. Although it was a short stint, he really wanted me to play professional football. And for a little while I did, until I didn't. So this was him really wanting to support a dream I had. And a while ago I realized that, and I'd made up a story that nobody supported my dream to play professional football. And it would be a short dream. And I'll tell you more about that in another story, in another chapter. But it's not true. He did support my dream. There was somebody to support my dream. And he did as much as he could to support that dream. At that time, while I was in grade 11, he was really active in his addiction. And it was really painful to be in his home, knowing that his wife at the time wasn't asked whether or not this was something that was going to work for her. So, like I said, I did feel like an intruder. It was very lonely for me. Displaced from my family, displaced from my friends, in a brand new school. I, to this day, don't really know how I managed. But I did do this, and this was not unusual for behaviors that I'd actually known myself to use. But Rick's addiction was really powerful, right? His alcoholism. And it was really painful and scary to witness as it unfolded in his relationship with his wife and his two boys, one an infant and one a toddler. And this is classic dysfunction. Classic dysfunction. I knew his place wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I could sense there was an end coming to it. And I had no idea how that would unfold. So without a conversation with he or his wife, and in fact, I don't even really remember how I exited that place. But I left. I didn't stay there for the year. I left very early on in the first semester. And of course, I was afraid that if I'd moved out of the district, that I wouldn't be able to go to the school anymore. But I never investigated that. I left. I wasn't safe. So I went back to Mom's place, which she was happy about. But she was unhappy that I was still going to go to the Protestant school, which was now right halfway across the city. Here's what I want to share. I still didn't know how to ask for support. I still didn't know how to tell my older brother. I didn't know how to tell his wife that I didn't feel like I belonged there. I didn't know how to tell anybody that that wasn't the place that I needed to be. I didn't tell a counselor in the new high school. But for a little while, I started to act out that pain that I had, being away from a base that would support me, my home, for a little while, and then going back to it. Yeah, my grades suffered. But here was the difference. Those teachers, those administrators at Viscount Bennett sat me down and had a conversation with me, were concerned about me. And it would be a big turning point for me. So first of all, I would let them into my pain. I would be able to say to them what my pain was. And they would assure me that they would support me. So here was a support system that didn't exist for me in my entire life. And didn't exist in my first year at St. Francis. And here in a very short period of time, I had the support system from these folks in this brand new school. It changed my life. So I have profound gratitude for my oldest brother for being the inspiration. I have this really strong sense that without that inspiration, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have the life experiences that I have today. And most importantly, I wouldn't be who I am today. So to my older brother, I continue to give thanks and have a very special relationship with him energetically. He is, right, the foundation that I continue to spring from. And I'm so, so proud to be able to share that with you.